AC season is rapidly approaching once again. The days are getting longer and the temperature is rising. The last thing you want to do is hit that AC button in your Subaru and get a bunch of hot air in your face. In today's video, we're going to go over some common failure points, common issues with Subaru air conditioning systems, and some tips and tricks to keep your AC blowing nice and icy cold all summer long. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So guys, we are here with my 2013 Subaru Crosstrek with 234,000 miles on the clock. We've done lots of videos on this car in the past, and we've done lots of videos on Subaru air conditioning systems in the past, and I will try to tag those up in the top corner. I've got one video that is like a basic rudimentary explanation of how air conditioning systems work. That is a great video to watch if you are new to AC systems, do not know how the system works. It gives you a nice fundamental basic overview of how the components work together and what each component does in the system. Now also, I will link up videos I have done in the past where I talk about issues and go more in depth in them on those particular videos. So one issue that I've seen a lot with the newer Subarus, with these F-Series engine Subarus, is this high pressure hose right here. We actually did a video on this just a couple of days ago, or maybe a week or so ago, on my mother's 2014 Subaru Forester, and she had a leak from this hose right here. And again, in that video, and as I explained right here, the main issue is this battery right here. Because of the way the battery is positioned, it's very close to this high pressure line. And you have to pull it out underneath the radiator support and tilt it up. A lot of times, if you get your battery changed, especially at the parts stores when they change them for free, when you buy the battery, they're not that gentle with it because they really don't care. They're just trying to get you in and out as fast as possible. And when you yank this battery and impact this hose really hard, you can deform and compromise the crimps here where the aluminum is crimped onto the rubber line, either at the top or the bottom. When that happens, that seal in there can be compromised and you can lose your refrigerant charge and oil. One of the big signs that this has happened is you'll see oily buildup on this hose. This hose should be dry. If you see a lot of dirt clinging or an oily buildup, or it's slick, or you see any kind of discoloration, that is a sure sign that you have a leak starting at this high pressure hose. Now, luckily this hose is less than $100 and fairly easy to replace. You don't have to remove a bunch of stuff to get at it. You've just got one 10mm headed bolt up here, one 10mm headed bolt down here. You got to take this jug out of the way, but it pops out without any kind of tooling really needed. And I've got a full video showing you how to replace it. I will link again up in the corner. So moving on from there, the second most common, actually probably the most common place for air conditioning leaks or AC not working on your Subaru is right here at your AC compressor, where your high side and low side lines are bolted to the compressor. There is a sealing O-ring in here that seals these connections and prevents leaks. Now, as we can see here on my Crosstrek, we got a little bit of oil buildup and a greenish hue here. I'm not sure if there's AC dye in this system or not, but it looks like we've got a slow leak from this O-ring. And I've also noticed that in the last 5 years of having the car, I haven't serviced my air conditioning, and it seems to be getting a little weak. So later in the video, we're going to be removing the charge from the system with our recovery machine and replacing that O-ring with a new one and recharging our system back up to specification. That is a really commonplace, especially on the older Subarus with the EJ series and EZ series engines, for losing your charge and losing your AC. One often overlooked area of the air conditioning system is the AC condenser. It's right here in the open, catching rocks and road debris. Anything can bounce up off the highway and strike this condenser and possibly puncture it, causing a leak. This lower part of the condenser does take a beating. And before I hear you keyboard warriors in the comment section talk about how bad a design the Subaru is for having their AC condenser unprotected, you might as well save your words, because every single modern vehicle is set up the same way. They are not protected. There's no mesh or any kind of screen work. They're all susceptible to road debris, rocks, anything like that being kicked up off the highway, off the road, contacting and damaging that condenser. There's also a lot of times where road debris like, I don't know, grass clippings and insects and all kinds of stuff will build up along these bottom 3 rows or so of fins. As you see, the fins are actually bent over a lot of places here, and that restricts the airflow through the condenser. And by stifling that airflow, you lessen the efficiency of that condenser to move heat from the inside of the vehicle to the outside of the vehicle. As we know, AC systems do not cool air. All they do is move heat. They move heat from inside the car and dump it outside of the car right here at the condenser. So always be sure to check your condenser, especially the lower part of the condenser here, for any kind of damage or dent, or if there's a wet spot that's possibly refrigerant oil leaking out around a leak, or if you have any dye down here, if you have leak detection dye in your system. Always a great place to look when you have an issue with your Subaru and you have a problem with the refrigerant having leaked out. Don't forget to check this AC condenser at the front of the car, especially the lower portion that is susceptible to any kind of road debris or damage. So moving on from there, our next common issue is right here on our air conditioning compressor on our clutch on the front. Now, there's 2 different issues here. The modern F-Series engines has their own issue, and the older EJ Series engines and EZ Series engines have their own issue as well. Now, with the old EJs and EZs, the issue was the clutch gap. There is a specification for the gap between the clutch and the pulley, and if that gap gets too large, the electromagnetic clutch in here does not have the power to overcome that large gap to activate that clutch and lock it into the pulley and turn the compressor. So what you can do is remove this bolt, and there are shims in there to lessen that gap. As these compressors wear, as the clutches wear, it's just like the clutch in the transmission. As it's used, it wears down due to friction. So that gap can get larger, and the ability for the clutch to close that gap lessens until it can no longer. So I've got a whole video up here in the top corner on checking that gap, the proper clearance for it, and adjusting it if need be. Again, this is a super common issue on the older EJs and EZ compressors, especially with higher mileage and age. As that wears down, it just becomes not as effective and then stops working. Now, on the modern F-Series engines and newer compressors, the issue is noise. There's a lot of issues with these compressors being replaced because of noise concerns. Now, I've seen a lot of these compressors, and I've seen a lot of them with noise in them. Normally, it does not hinder the operation of the AC system. It's just an annoyance. It's just a sound. I've also seen a lot of people pay to have their AC compressor replaced because of that noise, just to have the new compressor make noise in a few months' time. It's kind of a thing you got to deal with, that a lot of these newer compressors are just noisy, and mainly in the clutch area, the front pulley area. It's just part of it. So you can pay to replace your compressor, but don't be alarmed within a year's time if your new compressor is making a similar noise once again. So just be wary of that, you know, just because it's making a noise doesn't mean it's not working or there's a problem. It just seems to be an inherent issue with these newer compressors, that they're just noisier. So guys, that's basically the main failure points, common failure points on Subaru air conditioning systems. Noisy clutches, condensers that have leaks from physical damage, high pressure hoses that have leaks from physical damage, and O-rings that just get old and dry rot and shrink with age and leak out. Not a ton of high dollar repairs. O-rings are cheap. This hose is under $100. You can find condensers for under $100 online if you don't go with a genuine part. It can be DIY friendly or it can't. It just depends. If your system is completely leaked out, a set of manifold gauges and a vacuum pump, and you are good to go. But if you have a leak and your system's still charged, it's not that DIY friendly, because again, you've got to find someone with a AC recovery machine to draw your charge out so you can safely work on the system. So what are some tips and tricks for keeping your air conditioning system working optimally during the summer months? So first thing is to check the condenser, check the flow of air, and also check between the AC condenser and the radiator. You can pop up these two 12mm headed bolts, pull these brackets loose, and you can pull the radiator slightly forward. You don't have to take your coolant lines loose, anything like that. and check for debris and blockages. A lot of times road debris and grass clippings and leaves and things like that can build up between the condenser and the radiator, causing restrictions of flow. If you take these brackets off, you can tilt that radiator forward and take a blow nozzle and blow that debris out of there. You don't want any of that stuff in there. It restricts the flow and limits the efficiency of your AC system. Another thing that's often overlooked in the AC system is the serpentine belt or the AC belt, depending on which system you have. If you have a dedicated AC compressor belt or if you have a serpentine belt, you always want to check the health and condition of all the pulleys in the system and check that the automatic belt tensioner is working correctly. If your tensioner is weak or loose or your belt slipping, you're going to have issues. That compressor puts strain on the engine, and if that belt is not tight, it can slip and cause efficiency issues with your air conditioning system. Another source of common AC woes and poor performance out of a Subaru is blockages and buildups in your evaporator core box, clogged or restricted cabin air filters. Also, if you've got a bunch of leaves and debris up here on the cowl, that's where the fresh air comes into the car. You want to make sure that that is clear of obstructions. You want to make sure your cabin air filter is free of obstructions and fresh and new and not clogged up. And you want to make sure that when your air conditioning system's on, that you get a steady drip of water out of the vent for the AC box. Condensation happens, especially in high humidity. Water condensates on that evaporator core and it has to go somewhere. There's a vent drain for it to drain out under the car. A lot of times debris and stuff can build up. One, coming through this shroud, two, getting past a clogged up cabin air filter, and then accumulating inside of the box, breaking down, decomposing, and clogging up the vent. When that happens, the water sits in the bottom of the box. It can overflow, pour out onto your passenger footwell, and cause issues with the AC system not working correctly. I have a video on that actually in this Crosstrek where I had a bunch of water running out due to a clogged vent. And I also have a video on Subaru's AC tune-up system. Now that will allow you to flush out all of the junk that's built up inside of the evaporator core housing, flush all of that back out. Also has a nice spray to clean out all of your ductwork, all of your vents, and get any kind of musty smell out of your car. Got another video up here in the corner that shows you all about how to do that system checkup for the air condition, how to clean the vents, how to flush out the evaporator box, and get your AC system in tip-top shape. And there you have it, guys. Some common failure points on Subaru air conditioning systems and some tips and tricks to keep your air conditioning system running in tip-top shape all summer long. Again, I will link all the videos up in the corner, try to, and link them down in the description for the individual how-to one-on-one videos on, say, the O-rings or the high-pressure line or cabin air filters or flushing out using the AC system clean. I have pretty much a dedicated video for every single thing we've talked about in today's video. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.